Tonight, landfall. Idalia slams into the west coast of Florida as a Category 3 hurricane.
My son's a law enforcement officer. They have ordered a lot of body bags. They're expecting some fatalities.
Plus, sifting through the ashes.
Now we have nothing to come back to.
Hundreds of people still missing in the wake of the devastating wildfires in Hawaii.
And a surge in hate crimes. This weekend's shooting in Jacksonville, just the latest in an escalating wave of violence.
All this and more tonight on Faith Nation.
Hurricane Idalia's path of destruction. Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm John Jessup.
And good evening, I'm Jenna Browder. Winds up to 120 miles per hour, life-threatening storm surge, and torrential rains. Idalia making landfall along Florida's Big Bend early this morning as a Category 3 hurricane.
The storm trekking its way across Georgia as a Category 1 hurricane, something weather officials say is unprecedented. CBN's Caitlin Burke is following the storm as it makes its northward advance. Caitlin, what are the main concerns right now?
John, Jenna, both state and federal officials warn conditions remain dangerous even after a storm like this has passed, with rivers often flooding as much as 72 hours later and high tide bringing in new waves of storm surge.
Fortunately, we see so many fatalities after the storm passes. We want to make sure that everybody is taking the right precautions to keep themselves safe.
Idalia is the strongest storm to hit the Big Bend region of Florida in over 100 years, and state officials there say around 250,000 people remain without power. The top priority right now, reaching those who chose not to evacuate. Search and rescue missions are currently underway, and in an afternoon press conference, President Biden said federal resources are already on the ground in Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas.
I let each governor I spoke with know if there's anything the states need right now, I'm ready to mobilize that support of what they need.
Meanwhile, FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell says major storms like Idalia are likely the new normal.
We are seeing an increase in the number of severe weather events. And what we saw with this storm, as we have seen with several of our hurricanes over the last few years, is that they are intensifying more rapidly due to the elevated heat of the water temperature in the Gulf or in the Pacific, or whether it's in the Atlantic.
Idalia is now making its way into South Carolina after moving through Georgia all afternoon. It is still considered a dangerous storm, bringing high winds, heavy rain, and serious flooding even as it downgrades. South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster's declaring a state of emergency as a precaution. John, Jenna?
All right, CBN's Caitlin Burke. Thank you so much, Caitlin. Well, Haley Henson is with Operation Blessing in Valdosta, Georgia, and she joins us now. Haley, thank you for making time to be with us. So what are you seeing right now, and how are you helping people prepare there in Valdosta?
Hi, this is actually Stephanie Horton, the U.S. Disaster Relief Manager, and Haley's with me, but we are here in Valdosta, Georgia, where there is down power lines everywhere, trees down, all the resources are completely cut off. Currently, there's no fuel, there's no water, there's no electricity. There is, people are just kind of out and about assessing the damage of their properties currently.
Yeah. Stephanie, thanks for coming on this evening. This is Jenna. What does the game plan look like there? We know there are many people in Georgia, where you are also without power. What's Operation Blessing's plan as it relates to Florida, Georgia, that whole region?
Well, we already went out briefly for assessments. We went to check the roads. There currently are road blockages to where we can't get very far. People are blocked in their neighborhoods. People are blocked in on other parts of Georgia and Florida. So currently we will be trying to get past some of these road closures and road blockages to get to the hardest hit areas to assess the damage there and see how we can assess the needs of those.
So you talked about some of the damage, some of the roadblocks and closures, and then we know about power outages. What do you anticipate being some of the biggest needs on the ground?
Currently, the biggest need is water. there's a food need, all of your normal places that the evacuees would head to for food, since they're not near their residences, are closed. So there is needs for food currently, there's needs for water, there's needs for basic necessities that you would think that you would already have with you, but currently they don't have any.
Yeah. Stephanie, if you could, what is your prayer for the people in this region, and how would you encourage people to pray?
Oh, my prayer for everyone is for the Holy Spirit right now, and to release any burdens or any stress upon Him, and let the Lord carry those for you. Right now, I would like to wrap my arms around each and every person that has a devastating loss today, or that is doing without, and really just love on them and pray for them and give them uplifting and encouragement and hope for the things that the Lord will take these things from them and they will reside in Him.
Yeah, amen.
Amen.
We can tell it's windy there. Stephanie Horton with Operation Blessing, thank you so much for your time this evening, and please stay safe out there.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Thank you so much.
Well, you can find out more about Operation Blessing's relief work and how to help by visiting ob.org.
It's a wonderful, wonderful organization. All right, well, as Florida copes with Hurricane Idalia, Hawaiians are sifting through the ashes after the devastating wildfires in Maui. Hundreds still missing.
That's right. In the middle of tragedy, stories of survival and miracles are beginning to surface. CBN's Wendy Griffith is in Maui with a first-hand look at the devastation, along with God's divine protection.
Just over a month ago, I was staying in what used to be this beautiful oceanfront inn right here on Front Street in Lahaina. I was staying in room number 4, which I think was right about here. As you can see, it's been totally consumed by the fire. Just devastating.
Just next door to the inn where I stayed, David and Christian Mello's condominium building is still standing, although not livable. There's no water, no electricity, and even talk it may be condemned.
This is our paradise home, and we come here, we sit on the night, we do our devotion, pray, and now we have nothing to come back to.
Monday, the Mellos retrieved a few precious items from their home, including Christian's beloved paddleboard, one of her favorite hobbies, which miraculously was unharmed, although the cover did have a burn hole. Fortunately, the couple was on the other side of the island when the fires started.
It's heartbreaking to walk down here and see all our neighbors' homes burned down to the ground. We got each other, we love each other, and we're going to make it no matter what, where we go, whatever. God's with us.
And we had to go into the smoke. And it was so dense, so thick, it was darker than a night without stars and moon, like super dark, like I never seen.
Harvest Kumalani pastor Lucho Bonto says he and his family are lucky to be alive. He showed us how the fire came down the hill, then jumped over the highway into his neighborhood, but amazingly spared his house.
I didn't know how bad it was at that moment. 2 days later, listening to stories, I learned how close we were from death and how that was a miracle.
Although his home looks untouched from the fire, it too is not livable. No water, no electricity, and no way of knowing how long before Lahaina's infrastructure will be restored.
Where are you staying now?
I'm staying at a bed and breakfast that someone is donating temporarily to us, and we're looking for a place.
Even though David and Christian and Pastor Lucho are temporarily displaced, as believers, they haven't lost hope and are even helping others through this tough time.
I think there's so many miracles that have happened through this tragedy, and you can see God in those miracles. And out of ashes, beauty is coming out.
Wendy Griffith, CBN News, Maui.
Beauty for ashes. Well, in political news tonight, new concerns over the health of Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, the Republican senator appearing to freeze during a news conference.
Thoughts about what?
Running for re-election in 2026.
That's
Did you hear the question, Senator? Running for re-election in 2026?
A aides stepping in to help out eventually led the senator from Kentucky away. It's the second time in a matter of weeks the GOP leader has frozen during a press conference.
Well, violence in the form of hate crimes is rising across America.
The spike comes as the FBI investigates the weekend shooting in Jacksonville, Florida as a hate crime, just the latest in a surge of hate crimes in big cities. CBN Washington correspondent Hillary Powell is looking into why the FBI is tracking this as a trend. Hillary.
So concerning, John, the same day the nation observed the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington, which called for nonviolence, a white gunman in Jacksonville, Florida, went on a shooting rampage near an historically black university. This attack is not isolated. President Joe Biden is calling for action and says communities impacted should feel empowered to speak out about injustice. She's dancing for a friend whose steps were stolen from him. Grief expressed as praise dance at a Philadelphia funeral for 28-year-old O'Shea Sibley. Police say he was fatally stabbed in July by a 17-year-old for standing up to teens who taunted his group of gay black friends.
One day at a time, I'm just trying, you know, it's real hard.
Prosecutors say anti-black and anti-LGBTQ bias is to blame, so the suspect is facing charges of second-degree murder as a hate crime. Sibley's death, one too many in a series of crimes across the country that show a spike in violence steeped in racial animus. Recent data from the FBI shows hate crimes rose 12% between 2020 and 2021, reaching the highest level since tracking began in the early 1990s. In the month that marks the 60th anniversary of the peaceful March on Washington, President Joe Biden warns a rise in anti-Semitism and racist attacks won't be ignored.
White supremacy is a poison. It's a poison. It's been allowed to grow faster and fester in our communities to the point where the intelligence community is determined, the U.S. intelligence community is determined that domestic terrorism rooted in white supremacy is the greatest terrorist threat we face in the homeland.
We cannot have someone come from another county and shoot up this community. It ain't no black on black crime. It's a hate crime.
In Florida this week, community leaders gathered to remember the victims of a self-proclaimed white supremacist who opened fire at a Dollar General store using a handgun and AR-15-style rifle to kill 3 black people. Authorities are investigating Saturday afternoon's deadly rampage as a racially motivated crime. It has left the predominantly black neighborhood shaken. One clergy member tells CBN's Faith Nation there is a solution.
The church should be the incubator to cultivate what will bring a vaccine to this disease. And it begins with every church and every family. It begins with our own children, raising children that see every single human being is made in the image of God.
The White House confirms federal law enforcement has opened a civil rights investigation into the Jacksonville attack and is treating it as a possible hate crime and also an act of domestic violent extremism.
All right, Hillary, thank you. Well, after a tumultuous legal battle over prayer, Coach Joe Kennedy has his job back and is about to return to the football field. Coming up. Welcome back. The 7-year court battle over public prayer is over, and on Friday, Coach Joe Kennedy will step back onto the gridiron. Kennedy's victory at the Supreme Court in June of last year was the culmination of a battle that began with the Bremerton High School football coach's silent prayer on the 50-yard line. Players eventually began to join him in prayer after games, and the school district in Washington state contended Kennedy's religious speech could have the effect of pressuring other students to pray, later firing Kennedy and setting off a years-long legal battle. Now Coach Kennedy is back and is reportedly set to receive a $1.7 million settlement.
Well, Matt Krause serves as counsel with First Liberty Institute, which represented Coach Kennedy at the Supreme Court. Matt, welcome to you. So I had an opportunity to visit and interview Coach Kennedy several years ago. I know how much it meant to him to get back on the field. Can you tell us what it means for him to be back on the coaching staff with these young students?
No, it's just huge. I mean, as you've pointed out, this has been 7 to 8 years of a battle that has kept him off the football field. And it's not just because he loves the sport of football. It's because he loves investing in the lives of the players that are on the team. And so he's as happy as a kid in a candy store, getting to get back onto the sideline to do what he loves to do, what he feels called to do, and can't wait to be a part of that, those Friday Night Lights again.
Yeah, Matt, great to have you with us this evening. If you could, talk about the weight of this case and the implications it has for other Americans.
Oh, it's huge. As we always say, as the Dobbs case was for the pro-life community, the Coach Kennedy case was for the religious liberty community. Not only was Coach Kennedy allowed to get back onto the field and given that constitutional right back, but it also threw out what's called the Lemon Test, which had been used for about 50 years by the courts in America to restrict and inhibit public displays of religion. So it's a brand new day in regards to these displays of religion, such as Coach Kennedy kneeling at the 50-yard line. So it's a golden age for religious liberty right now, and we're glad that Coach Kennedy gets to be on the field this Friday exercising those rights.
Matt, do you think the fight is over? Do you think there could be more challenges here?
Unfortunately, the fight is never over. Now, we're confident here at First Liberty that we can continue to defend and advance those religious liberty rights. Somebody will continue to kind of force these issues and try to negate and try to take away some of our constitutional rights that we have. So by no means is the battle over. It is for Coach Kennedy, which is a great thing, and he'll be back on the sidelines. But in the grander scheme of things, no, in some ways, the battle is probably just beginning, even with this great ruling.
Matt, we understand that First Liberty Institute is leading a campaign called Take a Knee. Can you tell us more about the campaign and what exactly it is that you're asking people to do?
Absolutely. We'd love for everybody who's listening right now to participate as Coach Kennedy takes the football field again on Friday night. We'd love for the entire country to take a knee as well. He'll be taking that knee, thanking God for the ability to live in this country, for his rights and his freedoms. And we want everybody to join in. You don't have to be in Bremerton, Washington. You don't have to be at that field where Coach Kennedy is to take that knee. And so we're encouraging everybody, 30 seconds to a minute, take a video, take a picture, upload it to social media, say you're taking a knee with Coach Kennedy, because we want there to be a groundswell of excitement and a renewal of this liberty that Coach Kennedy has that we can all embrace. We want everybody to take part in that. So if you go to rfia.org, which stands for Restoring Faith in America, but rfia.org, you can find out how you can take the challenge and be a part of this momentous event that's going to take place Friday night.
All right, Matt Krause with First Liberty Institute. Thank you so much and good luck.
Thank you so much. Y'all keep up the good work.
Thanks, Matt. Well, when we come back, the road to war. Why Israelis feel escalating attacks by Hezbollah could break nearly 20 years of relative peace.
Overseas tonight, escalating aggression by Hezbollah may soon lead to war with Israel. The terrorist group has been building up its weapons and releasing videos showing possible military attacks.
CBN Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell takes us into Israel's northern border, where some people fear that after 17 years of relative peace, war could break out at any moment.
Behind me is a spectacular view of southern Lebanon. After the 2006 Second Lebanon War, Hezbollah has been rearming and now has as many as 200,000 rockets on the other side of the border. CBN News joined former IDF Colonel and National Security Advisor Kobi Marom on a tour along the border.
We saw an amazing rearming process from Iran through Damascus to the Hezbollah infrastructure. And we decided to not respond, decided to have a restraint policy. That's the reason why the major threat against the Israeli people today, 2023, 200,000 rockets and missiles across the border right here that can target today Tel Aviv and other Israelis. That's the major threat for Israel.
That arsenal serves as a deterrent to keep Israel from attacking Iran's nuclear facilities. And Marom believes the regime has given Hezbollah a green light to turn up the heat.
The Iranians have a high self-confidence, many diplomatic achievements lately across the Middle East. They understand that they can put a lot of pressure on the Israeli government And the IDF, if they will succeed with the Hezbollah, to create an attrition war along this border right here.
This wall serves as one of Israel's responses.
They're really concerned about the fact that Israel is going to build a wall, an obstacle along the 70 miles of the Lebanese border, because their wall plan is to occupy neighborhoods from the Israeli communities along the border and describe totally the Israeli war plans.
Behind me is a closed military zone, and up on the hillside are the tents set up by Hezbollah for the last several weeks inside Israeli territory, the latest provocative act by the Iranian-backed terror group. The question now is, will Israel destroy the tents or allow them to remain? In the meantime, Hezbollah is pushing the envelope. Propaganda videos are rampant, ranging from the simulation of an attack on an IDF outpost to intimidating military exercises. And this footage shows Hezbollah special forces patrolling the border fence in violation of the UN resolution that ended the last war. Marom also sees Hezbollah taking advantage of Israel's internal division.
They look to the tough struggle inside the Israeli society as a great opportunity to create challenges to the Israeli government, to the Israeli people.
Marom also fears what could potentially result from the combination of the terrorist bravado and this precarious situation.
Is it possible that we face a war between Israel and Hezbollah in the near future? Yes, it's possible, with a miscalculation of one of the sides.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Thank you, Chris. And still ahead, a unique visitor and a sweet treat for a candy store customer.
And finally tonight, a candy store in Ocean Shores, Washington State saw a different kind of visitor over the weekend.
The customers in Buddy and Howie's candy store were quick to pull out their phones for this deer with a sweet tooth. Take a look. The deer entered the store through an open front door. The curious creature browsing the candy selection before hurrying back outside. The store owner, he says nothing was damaged. But the deer might have gotten a taste of their delicious taffy. And I have a feeling if that's the case, he might be back.
I think that is one smart deer. Just to know exactly what to look for, find this, the taffy, and be like, okay, I'm out.
You chose the right store.
Thanks for watching.
Have a good night.